Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live with Bill Tucci.
Behold his mighty hand.
Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang, Tucci gang.
Just want to manage expectations.
Weird.
This is the worst.
There's the bell. Come on. I knew it was coming. Gentlemen, it's Thursday Night Live with Billy Tucci.
It's just Thursday Night Live with Billy Nile and JC Vaughn. Yeah. How are you, everybody? Welcome, everybody. Sorry, I got a little delayed. Waiting on Mort. Mort had some technical difficulties with his computer, so he's rebooting and should be joining us shortly.
As opposed to technical difficulties with his stapler or something else like that.
It's a tape dispenser that always gets me.
Look at my little stapler.
Oh, you got a little stapler?
I've got a little stapler.
You got a little stapler there. Oh, it's red.
Oh,
it's
actually
red too.
Watch what I can do with it.
Thank you.
Oh, it's an emo
thanks.
night for Billy. You know,
I know.
I'm
so goth.
He's so
We got a
goth.
great show today, right? Let's do this. Is going to be awesome.
It is a fantastic and very exciting topic because it involves the legacy, including some unpublished material by one of the giants on the shoulders who we stand.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed.
I think that it's difficult to measure the impact in storytelling and character creation of Steve Ditko. And the great part about it is if you're a longtime fan, you can still discover stuff that's been around for a long time, but you haven't seen it before. And it just becomes this big revelation. For me, I grew up, I knew his Spider-Man. I preferred his Doctor Strange. Spider-Man to me has always been more about like when you discover it, that's who's going to be your artist. So me, it was the end of Romita. And my appreciation of Steve Ditko's Spider-Man grew backwards from my love of other stuff. But when the guys doing Creepy and Eerie, doing the archives at Dark Horse, they put out a volume of the Bernie Wrightson stuff. And I think that I moved the Ditko book up a year because I kept calling them. And I think they just wanted me to stop because his black and white work so blew me away that it actually made me go back and look at some of the color stuff. And that's honestly where my appreciation of the Spider-Man stuff grew from. Now, historically, I appreciated the context of the Spider-Man, but not until then. But it's enough of us talking about it, and me talking about it. Why don't we bring on our first guest, Mark Ditko?
Let's do it.
Hello, Mark.
Hey.
Oh, I like that. Oh, good to see you, sir. Good to see you.
Welcome, Mark Ditko.
Now,
Lovely
Mark,
to have you.
You've met Billy out at San Diego. You're meeting Nile here, and we got to know each other over a series of calls and at San Diego. I'm sure that one of the questions you get asked pretty much everywhere is, "Hey, what's it like being Steve Ditko's nephew in this context?"
It's funny because going way back, of course, I've known him all my life. He was holding me as a baby when I was getting confirmed, and he's my godfather, and he was always around, when I was a kid. So I have to say, number one, you know what? He's family. So it's just like having, well, he's my uncle. That's how I know him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, primarily that's what our relationship really was. It was family. But in the early 90s, and just kind of encapsulate this a bit here, in the early 90s, I had started, or late 80s, early 90s, I started to kind of re-engage in the comic business, and started going to San Diego Comic Con. And I tell you what, he would have hated this, but I would use my name to just say, hey, you know what? I've talked with Jack Kirby and Stanley and Jim Shooter and all these people, because I could just say, I'm Steve Ditko's nephew. But then at that point, he and I started a long writing correspondence, and I would tell him what I was doing. And I'd say, hey, I talked to Jack, and Jack said, hey, do you have a girlfriend yet, or something, you know? And I would relay these messages. So then our relationship got more and more into comics, and we would talk comics, and we would write about comics and the industry and what he's doing. In fact, that's how I came up with Ditkoverse, because I would write to him and I would say, how are things going in the Ditkoverse? As kind of a little intro. So primarily, yeah, he's my uncle. He's family. But then we grew closer and closer, number one, philosophically, and then just through comics.
Did you, as you were doing that, and as you were, effectively name dropping for the right people, did you get a sense of the appreciation for him that was out there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, huge. In fact, when I remember in the early 90s, talking with Jim Shooter, and how, we were both so upset when he left Dark Dominion, because we were both all looking forward to this, and I thought this was perfect for him. So the conversations that I had were, they were, I just say they were beautiful conversations. And me recognizing more and more, I don't know, his significance, his impact.
I was reading Dark Dominion a couple of weeks ago, and I lament that as a missed opportunity for him to have done more of that, because to me it was such, he was Steve Ditko. If he said it didn't fit, it didn't fit. But man, as a fan, I thought it was flipping perfect. So,
yeah, and really, what happened with me and my conversations with him, and my, as my relationship grew, I started to understand him more and more. When we would talk about life things, or family things, he would send me material. And he'd say, hey, have you ever read De Bono? Or, hey, you should read this. And he would send me books, and he would send me tapes, and he would send me things, and I'd read them. So, through our relationship, I got to understand why, he was who he was to a large degree philosophically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when you were a kid, did you actually understand like what he did for a living, doing comics and stuff, or was that something that wasn't really talked about?
No, it's kind of trippy, because through the 60s, there's comics always around the house. I have no idea where they came from. I'm 4 years old. I'm reading Conga, and Spider-Man, and I'm reading things, but I'm not. Look, I'm 4 years old. I think I'm looking at the artist. I'm not seeing that at all. So we're as a family member, we would get together 2-3 times, a year, summer barbecues and Christmas and things. And one time he was, my older brother, Steve, 2 years older than me, was drawing something, and Uncle Steve came over, and he was like, hey, let me show you something. He threw a piece of tracing paper over it, and he started to say, hey, you should do this and do this. And I saw that he could draw, and I went up to him as a little kid, and I said, Uncle Steve, do you know how to draw gorillas? Mm-hmm. Because I was reading Conga.
Right.
And I didn't know that he was drawing that stuff. So he whips out this gorilla, and I was like, whoa, Uncle Steve, you could really draw. So I would, when I would see him, we would ask him to draw stuff. But the adults, I remember my dad saying that he overheard a conversation with my Uncle Steve and his mom, my Bubba, and he said, look, I don't want to talk about business. I'm here for family. I'm here for vacation. What happens in New York, that I've left that behind. I'm here for family. I don't want to talk about it. And she spread that to his siblings. So my dad, my aunts and stuff, they all knew that, look, you don't engage him. You don't bother him with, comic business stuff. That's another world. He's here just for family. So the adults it was like mom. I didn't actually know who he was for real until I was an early teen.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? How did you discover that who he was as an early teen?
It was so anticlimactic. It was almost like knowing you have a relative and you've known him for all your life. You're 13, you're 14 years old. And all of a sudden you find out that uncle was a world-class fisherman or a world-class something. And you go, oh, wow, how about that? And that was pretty much it. It wasn't even memorable because it was just another factoid that you knew about your relatives. But that's not how you saw him anyway.
Right.
You saw him as a goofy uncle that wrestled with you and taught you how to throw knives or hatchets or, you're around as kids or something or play games. So, it was like that with all the relatives. It was all like when it came out, it was like, oh, wow. How about that?
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, a question for you, and I guess we'll get into the project when Mort can join us. Yeah. But right now, there's so many people want to know about what an enigma your uncle was. And he was like this specter that was like, we were all in New York City and he was around, but no one ever could see him. I know he had his office Midtown. But let's say like his philosophy, right? Mm-hmm. Noticing his shirt, if you remember, when I came up to you at San Diego, I didn't know you were, but you guys went to one of our panels. Yeah. And I was like, I like your shirt. Why you know that? And then you introduced yourself and your sister, right? Was it your sister or your wife?
My sister. Well, I think might have been my wife there, but my cousin was also there, Marcy. Yeah.
So and then you told me who you were. So I'm just curious about, like I said, that you're wearing the Who is John Galt shirt. We all know that that Steve's philosophy, big Ayn Rand fan, or that came, and that you share a philosophy like that. How did that come about? Did you read Fountainhead and you're like, holy crap, or did you know that he was into it and he kind of inspired you? Did he give you anything? Like, how did that sort of part of, part of your existence, occur?
Okay. So first of all, I'm not an objectivist. I'm not, necessarily an adherent of that philosophy. But to tell you the truth, there are some things in there that just do make sense to me. Mm-hmm. So how I got exposed to it was, sometime in the mid 90s, we were conversing, writing back and forth, and he sent me his copy of the Fountainhead. And he said, hey, you should read this. It was among some of the books that he was sending me. Yeah. So I read it and I was like, wow, that was actually a pretty interesting book. And then he said, hey, you should check out Atlas Shrugged at some point. And he sent me some other stuff. I read them and I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. But so one of the things that I like doing in these kinds of situations, especially at panels, is I've been collecting things that he said. Sometimes I don't like to overextend sort of my own speculation or interpretation of things. So I've created this document that it probably has about 50 pages now, and it's called Steve Ditko Speaks. And I've been collecting little quotes and things that he said. And I want to try to read whatever I can from this, but here's one that kind of speaks to that. And he says about somebody calling him an objectivist. And he says, one truth in an article about me claims that I'm a lifelong admirer of Ayn Rand. Lifelong means what? From the first day of my life, first day I could speak, read, write, draw, first day of school. When? It's this kind of factual, in quotes, nonsense started by someone that spreads as something actually proven to be true. Some claim to actually have that firsthand knowledge about me and my life, and it is accepted, believed. Yet no one ever knew when I first heard of Ayn Rand or her published book, The Fountainhead, first read it or saw the movie. The same with everything else about Rand. The further implication is that I have completely understood and agreed with, accepted everything she wrote. And how did I actually become aware of Anne's philosophy so I could take advantage of her ideas in my life in comic book work? He's saying he's basically saying, don't say I'm an objectivist. You don't know that. Mm-hmm. And the question is, that implies that he completely understands and agrees with everything and accepts everything that she wrote. I don't see him as an objectivist. He had his own philosophy, and that was a piece of it. And really, if I was to say anything, he was an Aristotelian. You know, it was Aristotle is his foundational philosophy. You know, so that's something that what I'm trying to do in situations like this is kind of bring out what was really going on with him.
I really love that being in his own words, Mark, and you not having to paraphrase something or interpret it. I think it has a lot of power. Now, you've got decades of crap to overcome from exactly what he was talking about in that quote. Yeah. But what the heck? Make a stand for the truth.
And I'm going to keep on doing that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now you were
eventually it'll stick.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now you were building this relation. You're getting closer. You know, you're now interacting with your uncle with letters. You're kind of getting more involved in his world. You know, learning about him and what's not. How did that growth from the 90s to like the 2000s and stuff? Did you start even like seeing him more in person, or was it more of a pen pal situation?
Oh no, okay. So I have to read this other thing here that he wrote that I was kind of going through a couple like quotes that I thought I really wanted to try to get out. And one of them is, so this is what he talked about meeting fans and engaging with fans. He said, after years of meeting with fans, the lesson is there is nothing important to be gained. It's just an interruption. Now he's talking about people coming to his office. You know, it's just an interruption and a waste of time. I've had occasions of work being interrupted by a phone call, interrupted by someone at the door. It's unexpected, accepted by everyone who has an office. With a letter dropped in the mail slot, I can pick it up, read it at my leisure, and answer the interesting parts. That should certainly be the best benefit for both parties. So he was a letter writer. I'm in Los Angeles. He's in New York. When we would sometimes go back, I happened to be back in Johnstown together over Christmas. Yeah, we would meet, we would talk and just bullshit, the time away. But generally it was writing because it was really convenient. But there was times when we would write 30, 40 page letters back and forth. Wow. Like we would, and then there's other people who I know that literally wrote to him and back and forth every week. So the amount of letters that he wrote, the correspondence that he had was just phenomenal. But what ended up happening with my correspondence, first it was just, hey, Uncle Steve, family. And then it got to be really compartmentalized where I would write about family. I would write about here's what I'm doing in business and work. What are you doing these days? And then it sort of became sort of a little philosophy kind of segment in there where I would say, I have this situation going on or this or that. And he would give me some advice or suggestions or send me something to read. And over time, I got to see more and more of sort of where his head was at. But it got to the point where our writing in early 2000s, 2003, 4, 5, I started to write to him and I said, look, Uncle Steve, I'm in Los Angeles. I have a really close friend who runs a post-production studio, and he's won Academy Awards with, James Cameron, we're Steven Spielberg, all these guys. I said, you want me to talk to him about some of your work? And he said, absolutely. So we started to write back and forth, and he said, I'd like to have this as a big screen activity. I want this to be an animated cartoon. I think we should try this. You should try this. Pitch it to him. He would send me comics and say, here's storyboards. And he said, absolutely. Pitch it. Now, of course, I'm running my own business. And if I have a regret in life is that I never really pursued that to some conclusion, and I ended up dropping the ball. So basically, I know what he wanted to achieve. So here I am now with an opportunity to now pursue those things a little bit more aggressively. And that's what I'm doing. So over time, our relationship moved from family into heavy philosophy. And then all of a sudden, more and more into the comic side, intermingled with philosophy. And now here I am sort of trying to do my best to represent his philosophy. I call myself his philosophical monitor of sorts, when people say things, but then also try to just get the things done that he really wanted to do all along and just never accomplished.
That's
fantastic.
phenomenal, man.
Gotta carry on that legacy.
Yeah.
In our, we've only had a handful of conversations, but I really feel like, it's presumptuous to say, but I really feel like your commitment to doing this and doing it right. And I want to get into Mr. A bit, but I really want to wait and see if Mort can get on, because I'm just enamored of that new Mr. A material. But let's talk a little bit about Countdown to Ditko 100 and what your approach is with that, because I think it's a phenomenal thing that really, when you think about 100 years of Steve Ditko, that's pretty freaking awesome. Yeah. So tell me about what your plans for the Countdown to Ditko 100.
So anyway, I'll start up by saying we're really behind the 8 ball because we had a very, very, very slow start. There are some people in the family who were being more ambitious, and some weren't, I'll say. And I was always pushing. I'm a little bit overwhelming to some of the family because I'm a businessman, and I'm the kind of guy that just wants to get shit done, and I want to make stuff happen. So I was, to a certain degree, I was kind of held back, I'll say. But I've kind of broke those shackles, and I'm ready to kind of go, but I'm behind now. So this D100 thing came up, and honestly, I don't know if it was my brother Patrick who first said that, or if it was Mort. I'm not sure who really came up with this D100 strategy. Is we want to have as much as we possibly can now, starting as of this year, to have for his 100th birthday in November of 2027. Yeah. So we have this big lineup now that we are going and remastering all of his stuff, getting it to the quality that he wants, getting out incrementals until we could package it into collected editions. And we're just going to keep just firing this stuff out. We have a lineup of, obviously, comics, Mr. A, static until they go the collected edition, a lot of his other stuff. We're going to publish all of his essays in a collected edition. So we're looking at some pretty, I'll say, significant projects that we're going to push as hard as we can to get out before his 100th birthday in November of 2027.
And you're also looking at something out of the book you were reading, that Ditko Speaks. Are you looking at doing something more with that?
You know what? I don't know where I can take that, because right now I have chapters of things that he said about other artists, things that and creators, things that he said in terms of art advice that he had given to people, things that he said just philosophically, things that he said about Stan Lee, things that he said about, I have sort of these categories of things and the sort of chapters of them, but gosh, there's so much material to go through. And I don't, that would be really ambitious, but what I'd like to start doing, and Mort and I talked about it, we didn't get it into this first campaign, is I want to start leaking that stuff in each issue of comics.
Absolutely.
I want to start having a section. Steve,
okay. Yeah. If I can be a fanboy here for a total minute, I mean, in all seriousness, one of the great things that's missing from comics right now is taken care of by the immediacy of the internet. You talked about letter writing. I loved letters pages, whether they were just text or actual correspondence. One of the things that Mike Grell has been doing with their remastered omnibuses of John Sable is each one comes with a comic that reprints the letter pages from those issues.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. It really took me back. But then I go back and I look at, like, in the Malibu Ultraverse, there was a comic called Firearm, and it was James Robinson in the process of becoming James Robinson that we all knew just a couple years later. The letter columns, we would start with them. They were so good.
Hey, I just got to say, you know what? I love Dave and Tom, those guys. I bought in the early 90s. I was a crazy independent guy. I bought everything Continuity put out, everything Malibu put out, everything. I read everything. I was just a voracious. That was my era, early 90s.
Mark, I totally get that. And Tom particularly, but Tom and Dave, and Dan, Hank Cannells, and a bunch of those guys, they all contributed to me breaking in. They set up interviews with creators and stuff like that for me. Literally, Steve Gerber sending me scripts for Sludge was the first compressed file I ever got over the internet. But Mort did want. We do want to have eventually letters pages, a letters column also in our issues. So that is something we're gonna bring in. Well, it just would. Listen, this, whether it's a letters column or just text from this stuff that you're talking about, anything that gives us legit context about Ditko. And Billy, I think you used the word enigma. To many people, he is that. Yeah. And you've got the best thing. You're not just saying he's my uncle. You're saying he's my uncle, and I've got this stuff he said.
Yeah. Hey, I'll say this. I wish Mort's tying my hands with his 32 pages. It's like, I need more than 32 pages, man. It is like, I need bigger volume. I got to start, so did you guys aware when that Rolling Stone article came out? Rolling Stone did a piece on my uncle last summer.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I worked with Jay, the writer of that, my family worked with Jay. We're for almost a year on that. We met at New York Comic Con, and then it kind of came out in the summer. Well, I wasn't happy with how it came out. So I rewrote the whole thing. And originally it was like, I don't know, might have been 15, 20 pages. It's like 35 or 40 pages now. I added all kinds of stuff in there, and I wanted to try to get it out there. And I was talking to Jay, and I was like, Jay, can I publish this? And he's like, no, you can't do that. It's a Rolling Stone piece. So I have stuff like this. It's just like, man,
but you probably could Xerox copy, believe it or not.
No,
and not print something that was printed already, not.
First off, he can quote extensively from it, and that's it.
But not rewrite it.
No. I mean, the images of the actual printed pages.
No.
Yeah, part of an archive, though.
You absolutely can show you can show for critical review purposes portions of it, but no, you cannot reprint the whole article.
So Billy, believe me, I tried. I called him up.
I think if you put in as an image, you can do that. Yeah. It's not retyped.
You can't do the whole article.
And you know what? So here's the thing: is I had to shelve that. I have it all. Yeah. It's done. It is written. It is now exactly what it should have been. This piece, very pictures, photos, images, quotes, on and on and on. I just don't know what to do with it. So I have to put that aside and focus on what I can do.
Here's the thing to remember about that, Mark, is no right now.
Yeah. That's why I still have it.
If you look at Price Guide 45, there's a Joe Shuster Superman cover. That took me 15 years. Yeah. And it is one of the best Joe Shuster Supermans ever. It was autographed from Joe and Jerry to Lefty Gomez of the New York Yankees and said from one Superman to another. And Joe did a bunch of sketches in that same style, but this was by far the best. And so the fact that it's no right now.
Well, bottom line
is who knows who owns Rolling Stone 2 years from now.
Yeah. Bottom line is I'm trying to take this material that I have, or the stories that I have, or the things that I want to do, and I'm just trying to find the mechanism and the way to actually get them out there. In some way, as much as I can, the best way that I can.
Well, you've got the cool thing is that you have till November of 2027, right? Yeah. For the 100th anniversary. Now you could technically, I love the idea that you go in crowdfunding, Indiegogo. I think especially with your uncle's fame and legendary status, that you'll probably get a lot more traction via Kickstarter. A lot more. I think this could be massive on Kickstarter. You showing that you're delivering the stuff, you'll deliver the first book with Steve Ditko's Monsters. What is it?
It's Static, Mr. A.
Amazing Heroes and Monsters. Yeah, sorry, I apologize. And you get that, you deliver that book, but you should also move it to once the Indiegogo campaign ends, or leave it in demand, and we'll help promote it and stuff. But you've got to launch it on Kickstarter.
Yeah. Well, I think
massive.
Billy, I think one of the things that we connected at San Diego was their panel was about doing Kickstarters, you know, and that's where I was trying to get my head wrapped around, well, what the heck do I do? And I'll tell you, Mort, who had done Kickstarters before, he said, hey, let's try Indiegogo. Let's just see what that's like. And it was really an experiment. Yeah. So now whether we do future ones on there or simultaneous.
The weirdest thing that we've all uncovered through Billy and our own experience is there's people that'll bid on one and won't bid on the other. It's just like Ford and GM.
Yeah.
But you're not the first, you know, I've had some other people tell me the same thing. Get it on Kickstarter as well, you know, simultaneously. Wait till that's done. All this different advice, which I don't really know. Look, I'll admit, in fact, I would say this campaign was premature. We were really not ready. I was not ready for the amount of work that it was going to take to actually do this thing. It is like, out of my mind. I'm running a business. I'm running my engineering consulting business here full time, and I have big projects and commitments. So me and my sister and some others were just like, you know, just humping it with Mort, trying to get this thing out. And we probably should have waited, but I just couldn't wait anymore.
Right.
I just couldn't wait anymore.
That's fine. The people who crowdfund, you know, like you could say that, you know, the end of the Kickstarter, I think you have 19 days left. You end it with, you know, keep it in demand, right? We'll do a big push. We'll share it with everyone. But then when you do Kickstarter, because again, the mainstream magazine, like even magazines, pop culture magazines, you know, your Rolling Stone might even cover it, that now you're doing Kickstarter as a crowdfunding. Yeah. Believe it or not, now our Indiegogo numbers personally are bigger than our Kickstarter numbers. Mine, right? But for the vast majority of mainstream pop culture, a lot of them no Kickstarter right away. They even consider crowdfunding Kickstarter. It's like when you want, you know, a cola, everyone asks for a Coke. That's sort of what they've done.
The Kleenex effect.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, if you're crowdfunding, they say, "Oh, you're kickstarting your Kickstarter, right?"
Yeah. And then I would launch that, reach out to other people, and just do that campaign too. And still, same thing. Keep in touch with your backers, right? Deliver the digital things, stuff like that you can. But if it's taking you long, it's, you know, it's better to hit a home run and have it a few months late, as opposed to getting it out because you got to get it out because you promised to get it out in June of 2025. If you keep in touch with your backers, you let them know you send updates, they'll understand.
Here's what I want to say about this, which is I can't think of a reason to ignore any revenue stream here. Fund My Comic will be much smaller along the lines, you know, it's small like an Indiegogo, but like I'm just doing my first one now, and and it's really funny. I don't have a lot of backers, but I have a lot of backers at higher dollar levels. Yeah. Weird stuff. You know, there's nuances to each of them. Look, I wanted to wait till Mort was here for this. Yeah. I'm dying to talk about Mr. A.
Yeah. Well, let me real quick, Jeff, if I can finish. So then get this book out, get this campaign out, even if it's a few months late, because it's the first one you've ever done, right? And you're the one who has everything for the most part. You're working with Mort, but you've got a business, etc. You get that delivered, and then you do the build up for the 100th anniversary. You could even launch it in November. I would launch it before November because that's a tough month. You could launch it October. You could launch it September. You don't necessarily need that book in people's hands for your uncle's 100th birthday. Do you know what I mean? Like it's best to have all your ducks in the row and then launch it. Say you wanted to launch it in January or February of 2027, right? Or 2026, you want to launch it next year. If you can wait on it, then wait on it, and have it. It's always better to make that big image, big impact.
But don't you guys have a whole slate of stuff, Mark?
Yeah. So it's like a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing is what's and I'll tell you what, some of this stuff is already done. We're done. These books for this campaign, these 4 books, they're done.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, they're done. And then in fact, some of the books for the next campaign are done already. So what we're doing and what my plan is because this is how my head works. Boy, I wish I would have connected with my uncle at this level when he was alive, because this is really what he needed when he was alive to actually see this. Because what my plan is, and I'm talking with, one of my sisters, is that once this campaign is done in the first week of May, we are going to deliver it by the end of May. It's going to be out and delivered. And then we're doing the next one in June. And we're going to deliver that in July.
Fantastic.
And we're doing the next one in August.
Okay, then you're way on your way. I didn't know you were so ahead of the game.
So,
so just scratch everything I just said. Just get that out of here.
I mean, I would focus honestly with Steve Ditko's name, right, and Kickstarters and crowdfunding. I would, you're getting the Indiegogo feet wet, but I would focus on Kickstarters first, and then bring over to Indiegogo's or Fund My Comics, because the ability to explore and to people find it, and even media to get a hold of it, will come from Kickstarter. Indiegogo is good if you already if you're a Billy Tucci that's been in the industry for 30 years and already has a following. They'll go there. Fund My Comic is too new. It would probably be great exposure for them to have a Steve Ditko book on there.
God, yeah. And that could
that would be, it'll bring you in small numbers, a few thousand here or there.
Yeah.
But IP wise, name wise, it's just
the great thing about
business honest. Kickstarter is going to be your main outlet for crowdfunding.
The great thing about Fund My Comic is that it offers you the store, where you can just make it a store where you print 20 extras and you put them in your store, that kind of stuff like that. That can be an ongoing thing, and it's real easy. My whole thing like this, and I sort of learned this from Billy, and I actually did Fund My Comic before he did, and it's really just, why would we ignore any revenue stream?
Right.
It really came down to that.
We're going to bring the campaign up so we can have it on screen. Okay, Niall?
Yeah.
We're just bringing this up, so we'll start talking.
Let me just kind of segue over to what Jeff said about Mr. A. This is what my uncle wrote me. He said, Mr. A, that is one character from the past that I would like to see in the present and in the future. So that was something that he wanted to have legs. That was by far his favorite character. That was his baby. So this obviously had to come out, and this Mr. A that's part of this is something that Mort Todd had commissioned with him in the early 90s. And then and there were supposed to be 5 issues. And then once they did the first 3.5, and Mort went out to kind of look at what it was going to take to actually do it. And he said the numbers were like $1,000 a page to do the color separations. So each book was going to be 36 G's, to actually do a book. They didn't have the capital to do that, so they had to shelve it. But this book was drawn specifically to be in color. It has been printed in black and white by Robin, so it's out there. But it was never. This is the first time it's the way it was supposed to be, and the colors all approved by my uncle. In fact, Mort had to pitch him and sell him on this idea that it needs to be in color. People need to see that Mr. A is all white. You can't see that in black and white. So. Right. And once my uncle saw that, he was sold, and then he drew it specifically to be colored. And one of
the things about this that is so phenomenal is that if you knew Mr. A, and the thing about Mr. A is it's such an artist's comic book. Artists just love that. You go to some really cool guys, and they've all got a Mr. A sketch. And one of the things I like about this is it clearly was done to be colored.
Yeah.
And because I've seen the issue, and it just rocks. And I look at it and I'm like, this is a revelation. Now my question is, would this lead to you coloring any of the other stuff?
I don't think I could keep Mort's hands off of it.
Excellent. All right, great. Good. Yep. It's a really dynamic book, and I loved the little blue, light blue highlights that worked on that. What did Steve say about Mr. A, about why he liked it? Do you have something on that? Or
only Mort could probably relay that. I had really talked to him. It's kind of funny because in my relationship with him, I talked about what was interesting to me, and then he sort of reflected on that in a conversational piece. I wish I knew what I knew now in writing to him, because it's like, oh my God, could I ask him questions? You know, and he would probably answer. Look, you know what? I had a certain amount of leeway that he gave me because I was his nephew. You know,
Right.
I was the one that could send. In fact, here's how ridiculous I could be as a nephew and get away with it. So one day he sent, in the 90s, he sends me his file copies of Spider-Man 5 through 38 and his annuals. He sends them to me just in a box. And I was like, whoa. So what do? I send them back and ask him to sign them. Okay, that's kind of ballsy. So he emails me back and he said, and the box comes back just like I sent it. And he emails me back. He writes me back and he says, "You are one lucky nephew. You don't know how close I came to just throwing these in the trash."
Wow.
Don't do that again. But then I went back one Christmas and I asked him to sign a couple Spider-Man comics for me, and he did. You know, and then he sent me, like, he did an issue of, like, The Safest Place, and he sends me like 10 signed copies. You know, so you know, that was, the relationship was very interesting, I'll say, because family.
Yeah, can I ask you about the you brought up Spider-Man, that I know there was a settlement. Now, did he pursue that settlement? Did you guys pursue it? Did he want to? Because you had heard things that he's like, I don't care about Spider-Man. It was something I worked on a long time ago. And I remember the talk, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I remember, like, he's owed millions and millions of dollars. Did he want to settle, or is that true that he didn't want anything to do with it, and Doctor Strange and all his Marvel stuff, and even especially the characters that he created or co-created, which, you know.
all what I can say is that was not initiated by him. I don't know if he had ever had thoughts or ambitions to do that. But that was initiated by my dad. And but I will say this, the year that he passed away, he did negotiate a settlement with DC. So he had, why did he do that? I don't know, 6 months before he passed away. So he had that, there was some closure maybe that he was trying to get. So I don't know what his thought process might have been beyond that point. But no, I have like no awareness of him ever intending to do that, because look, you said it, and anything that, if you look at what he wrote, he was like, I've washed my hands of that, I'm moved on.
Yeah, but that's, again, especially like if you're someone like him that, that was, an objectionist, or how would you, objectivist, right?
But he wasn't, Billy. We just talked about that.
Oh, but right. But he, well,
but philosophically, that's the best way to describe him. I mean, it really is, But I'll read this other quote. He talks about leaving Marvel, because I was on a panel with some people, and the panel kept asking me questions. How could he leave Spider-Man? How could he leave? So this is what he wrote. He said, "Once I left Marvel, I had no interest in the company or its comics or games by insiders or outsiders by others. I had many new interests: Wally Wood, Tower Comics, Wits End, Archie Goodwin, Warren, Wash Jobs, Joe Gill, Charlton, Blue Beetle, Question, and my own creations, Mr. A, etc." So look, he was just walking off of something into a whole different area,
Yeah. Well, it's a different mindset then too, though. Back then, for them, it's like it was a job. Like, they were creating, they were drawing, they were artists. It was like any other tradesman, right? Like, if you were,
it was always a job for him.
It was a job. Like, this is what I'm here. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people are kind of blown away with, like, why didn't they fight for royalties and rights? And because then it was a job. You had apprenticeships. You worked in your trade. You got your pay, and you moved on.
Niall, you're absolutely right. Royalties was doing more pages.
Yeah.
Hey, and you know what? The other thing about that is, you have to look at his history. And the one thing that I kind of feel like I can see him through this family lens of Johnstown and the family. Look, both of my grandparents on my mom's side and my dad's side were pretty much from Slovakia. They were either born here or came across as a 5-year-old or something. So I see my dad and my aunts and Uncle Steve as first generation Americans. You know what they were taught? to put your head down, do your job the best you can, earn a living, help where you can help, you know, and you're not a celebrity. You're not a showman. You put your head down to the nose to the grindstone and you work to earn a living and you be the best that you can. That was his mentality, you know, and that's what he did. That's how he lived his life. And he built his philosophy, you know, sort of as its foundational kind of premise. So
there's a video on the campaign, right? Can we show?
Let's watch.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's one for each of the books.
Let's watch them.
Yeah,
check it out.
Yeah, there's one for Mr. A, one for Static, and one for Conga.
All right.
What a great video.
That's great.
That was great. Really nice using Gustav Holst.
Yeah. Mars, right?
Yeah, Mars, Bringer of War. Absolutely.
Very
Let's
cool.
see the other ones.
Yeah, so there's one on Conga, there's one for Static.
Yeah, let me go
I
down.
think you passed it. You got to go to videos. Nile.
Yeah, if you just keep scrolling down, you'll get there.
Yeah,
Just
it's down there.
Oh, I'm
scrolling
sorry. I
down.
thought it was up higher. Sorry.
Yeah, it's there.
My fault.
Yeah, come on, Billy.
I know.
All
So
right.
we have a metallic cover for the special variant cover. There's a metallic cover, Mr. A, and then we have a variant cover for the there's the Congo video there.
All right, let's check this guy out. Well, let me go full. Okay. That's so good. I just got a message from Mort. He will not be. He keeps. Oh, wait, we got him.
Wait a minute.
There we go. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
There he is.
We see you, Mort. You're muted, though. You're muted.
Yeah, just hit that little microphone there, Mort. You got it? We got video.
Yeah, you did it. There you go. Hello?
Still muted.
Oh, that's weird. It's saying he's not muted, though.
Can you turn? Are you on your phone, Mort? If you're on your phone or your iPad, raise the volume of it.
Right. Did you say? I mean,
there he is.
Can I do Safari on my laptop?
It will not work on the Macs. For some reason,
Yeah.
Safari will work on an iPad or an iPhone with StreamYard.
Well, again, hyper apologies. It's just, you said Firefox, and I was like, oh yeah, I got Firefox, and then I realized, ooh, my old computer does, and it's been spinning for like half an hour. I fired it up, and
You probably got hypnotized by it.
I know, right?
Or are you getting sleepy?
Well, I just want to say hi to all you guys.
Well, we're glad you could make it.
What
Mark,
did I miss?
Great to see you, man. We've had a great discussion about the Ditkoverse and Steve Ditko history, and I'm really glad you're here because we've just been talking about Mr. A. And could you talk a little bit about how the miniseries came about back when and your involvement in it? Because I think it's really cool that you're the one, helping bring this to fruition after you're the one who commissioned it.
Yeah.
Well, it's mutual. I mean, I've been sitting on it for a few decades and going like, I wish we could have printed it. But yeah, after, I'd been working with Steve for a few years and a lifetime fan, of course. And so I was like, hey, why don't we do Mr. A in color? He's never been in color before. And there are a lot of people that don't even know he's all white, So Steve got a kick out of that. And I commissioned him to do a series. And then when we offered it to direct sales, it was, it was kind of miserable reaction. And, as I'm wont to say, this was pre-Photoshop. So you basically had to pay $1,000 a page for color separations back then. And so I'd already be deep in the hole between that and paying Steve. So we had to call it off. And so it is now finally appearing as it was supposed to be in semi-living color.
Mm-hmm. That is fantastic. Yeah. But Mort, I would love for you to do me a favor, and that is, can we get to know you a little bit? We got to talk with Mark, kind of get the history on it. But from looking at the campaign, if anyone reads it, I mean, you go way back with Ditko and stuff, and I'd like to just kind of get a bit of an introduction on yourself.
Sure. Well, I was, when I was a little kid, I really loved that Steve Ditko guy. I don't know. You guys probably remember that big Spider-Man treasury they put out.
Mm-hmm.
It was print page size and only for $1. And, I just went crazy over it and stuff. So, I couldn't get enough Ditko. And this newspaper called the Monster Times used to advertise, what's that guy, Joe Brancatelli or something? But
yeah.
We didn't have the Monster Times by me. We had, Famous Monsters of Filmland. All my friends have seen it, but where I was, I've never even heard of it until a few years ago.
Sad. Ooh, bummer.
I know.
I hope your therapy is working.
Yeah, and I was a monster kid too, for sure.
Oh, me too. In fact, my name first appeared in print in the issue of Famous Monsters that came out the same time as the first Famous Monsters convention. So I got Forrest Ackerman to sign it.
That's awesome. My first printed too was in the letters pages of not the letters pages. That was Steve Perros was in the letters page when you had to guess the film still, and it was The Man Who Fell to Earth. It was David Bowie, and I picked it, and that's the first printed of Billy Tucci. I think it's Famous Monsters of Filmland number 181. I think.
What magazine was that?
Famous Monsters of Filmland.
Famous Monsters had Bowie in it.
Yeah. Well, they had a thing like you had to look at it's a frame from a film, and you had to guess the film like some obscure thing. And it was
my issue had a very nice Ken Kelly cover, and then years later I worked with him at Marvel, and God, he's a nice guy, that Ken Kelly. But the famous monsters, I wasn't in wanted more readers like. I was in an actual article because Foy wrote an article about the Karloff film The Ghoul, and he misidentified the makeup artist, and about me and 10 other little brats from around the world go like, actually. And so Foy was nice enough to do a whole article and list all us kids' names, you know.
That's great. I was at Dragon Con in 1998, I think. And I get in the elevator at the hotel. I'm going up, and the elevator stops on the floor. And who walks in but Forey J. Ackerman?
Yeah.
In his brown leisure suit and the same thing like he had wore, like, you know. And oh my God, that was just like,
yeah,
and I just told him everything I told you.
Like
you know?
the shorter Vincent Price style. So anyways, yeah, in Monster Times, I would order like Avenging World and Mr. A and stuff like that. And because, you know, they didn't have comic shops and these weren't on the newsstands. So as I've told Mark and probably bored him to death about it, you know, I read Avenging World, I guess, in like 5th grade. And I was like, gosh, what's so wrong with the United Nations? Why doesn't he like the United? They get along with everybody. And then within a few years, I was like, oh, the dirty United Nations. So, you know, I moved to New York when I was 17. Like, I was already freelancing before then, doing record covers and comics and junk. And
where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
Maine.
Okay.
In a town of 3,000 that might have well been the 1950s, you know? So it was pretty interesting. So, yeah, so I moved to New York because I was going to be a comic book creator for Maine back then, you know? And so, you know, I freelanced for like DC and Marvel and junk. And then I got the job of editor-in-chief at Correct magazine. And the first person I called was Steve to get some work, right?
Yeah.
And his studio was, you know, about a block and a half from my studio, my office, rather. And so he came right over, probably in about 15 minutes, with his portfolio.
Had to sell himself.
And how old are you, Mort?
Yeah, 87.
Oh, 80s. Okay, so 1987. All right.
Yeah. No, so yeah, I was like 23 back then. And so yeah, he gave me a color proof to a cover from Here to Insanity. You know, a humor magazine Charlton did in the 50s. And I was like, oh geez, oh my goodness. And so yeah, we just started working together. And then I had a monster magazine too that he was in every issue of. And we had like Severin and Toth and Boyette and Chris Morrow.
So Mort, in
cool.
all our conversations about Steve, and we've had many, you never mentioned that he brought his portfolio.
I know, isn't that cool?
That's just freaking stunning, is what that is.
And he was probably pretty shocked to find out I was like a 23-year-old punk rocker in a suit. Because before that, I used to do phone sales at J&R Music World, you know, and everyone thought I was like in my 40s or 50s. So I got a real good phone voice. So when people actually met me, they were like, what?
Like, are you his assistant?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so let me add one more thing about Mort is, you know, I read this thing earlier about him saying that he really wasn't an objectivist, but let me reread one thing again and make a comment.
I said that?
So he said, this is my uncle. He says, yet no one ever knew when I first heard of Ayn Rand or her published book, The Fountainhead, first read it or saw the movie. Well, actually, I know who could say they know when he saw the movie first, because Mort helped him set up his VCR to play that movie.
Well, that's just it. I went over to set up his VCR. He already had the tape. You know, he was ready for me to get the hell
So
out of there.
He
and
bought a
watch Batman.
VCR because he had a tape.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I bought my first VCR so I could see Videodrome.
Oh.
But then Mort helped him set
I
that
could
up,
tell
and he
you something
sat there
funny
and
about
watched it with him.
Videodrome sometime.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
true. Can we pull up the campaign, Nile?
Yeah, we'll bring that back up.
And watch one of the other videos, and let's talk about it. And
Yeah, we've seen
right.
2 of the videos so far.
Just right there, the personalized variant cover on Fantastic Giants. If you scroll up just a scooch, that's the picture that he drew me when I told him the story about.
Wait, he didn't draw you. He drew for you.
For me.
You look a little bit like an ape. But.
So I told him the story about when I was little and asked him to draw gorillas. And of course, he remembers that. So in 1989, I told him that story, and he sent me this back, that picture, an inked picture that he drew. So that's going to be our variant cover. And it was personalized. Said, "Hey, Mark, are you still monkeying around?" So we're going to personalize everybody's cover to put your name on it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Unique. What a unique collectible.
Yeah.
Now, since we're back on the campaign, though, just really quick for anyone that's popping in new to this
Like me?
interview. Yes, like yourself. Now, the stories that are here, these books that you guys are producing, these are remastered, previously published, or is some of this unpublished content?
Right. Well, as of right now, it's just the Mr. A that's never been printed in color. But the other things we're starting out was we're working from either original art or stats, black and white, and I color them from that. So we're not just scanning the old comics, though someday we might have to.
Yeah. We'll see where it goes. But right now, these are all they've all been seen already, except they're not in color for the Mr. A.
It looks
they're just you know what the intention is to have them remastered in a high quality level, and then eventually
I think one of the things that's apparent about it is it is though Mort could clearly be comfortable with an older palette. This is a sort of like a modern palette almost. More, you're definitely taking advantage of the range that the computer can give you.
Yeah, for sure.
Even
but by
though
the same token, I don't want to do all kinds of fancy schmancy.
No, it's very much in his sensibility.
Yeah.
But it is modern, and the thing that I like about that is it may. This is my hope, is that it opens up some younger folks who might miss it if it was colored funky old style,
right? Yeah,
and really get a chance for them to get into Ditko, which is
well, for years I would, just for fun, I'd find old stats from Marvel, DC, and Charlton of Steve's and recolor them, including some of this Mr. A story, and would recolor them, send them to him, and he would critique them. So I mean, he was aware of what my palette was, and he thought it was kind of ginchy.
Yeah, and Jay Toons says, yes, Mort has done great work previously coloring Ditko's work and releases like Weird Stories of Steve Ditko, available for purchase on Amazon right now.
Thanks, Joshua.
All right, you're gonna get your tip in the mail.
Yeah. All right, let's check out Static.
Yeah.
Actually, I just interrupt. That's another thing I did.
Nope, go ahead.
At Marvel, I put out a lot of Atlas and like pre-code and post-code giant monster comics, and Steve did most of the covers and a bunch of pinups, and it was pretty cool. There's one cover with like all the Kirby and Ditko monsters, and I guess a representation in silhouette of Stan, along with either Jack or Steve, and the Stan guys. I'll call this monster ...
Can we go full screen with that, Nile, too? Because
they don't let you. It's grayed out.
Bastards. Well, what if you went to YouTube? snappy feet. Oh, Killjoy.
I love everything about this project.
So you guys familiar with Killjoy, the character in there?
No, I'm not.
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
he there were like 3 stories at Charlton, and that was the first story I bought from Steve. Like he'd drawn it in the mid 70s maybe, and so this is a good 10 years later, and he's sort of like a humorous Mr. A. And so I was like, I'll print this. And we just introduced high-tech 2-color in our Cracked magazine of red and black ink. So it's perfect. And some even say Deadpool might be based on him.
Oh.
I mean, he looks an awful damn a lot like him. And also, you know, it's just, he doesn't necessarily reference is it third or fourth wall? But he is having a lot of fun and making fun of criminals.
Mort, I gotta say, I don't think I've ever heard the phrase "a humorous Mr. A" before.
Right? Well, when you
great.
read it, you'll go like,
I'm actually not familiar with that character, so I really look forward to reading that.
Yeah, there's the cover.
You know what's crazy about that one particular story? I think it's like 8 pages long, and the first 6 pages are him meeting different villains and making them cry by the end of the page. But the thing is, each page could be a full issue at Marvel or DC.
Today.
It's got every friggin' element for its own story.
100%.
I mean,
so
that's
this is
why
going
he
to be
did
the
like
variant
9
cover
panels
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to have a cool variant cover with that. Yeah, if you hit that.
Yeah, this sounds like one of the most affordable campaigns I've ever seen in my life.
Uh-oh. Mark, we got to raise the prices.
Raise the prices, for goodness sake.
Hey, we put quality stuff out.
That's darn tootin', and we want to attract a big audience.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I like
so
that.
great. Just so great.
First.
And so that'll be static. The picture
Mm-hmm.
right above that video, that's going to be the cover with the hollow foil.
Nice.
And then this will be in black and white. This is kind of a reprint. This is the that I call the Bible, Steve Ditko's Bible.
Well, he's been saying that so much, I think we got to call it Mark Ditko's Bible.
That's right. Yeah.
He probably prays to it every morning.
It's just amazing art. I just love it.
Yeah.
His line work was just so
that
amazing.
bottom part is a centerfold that I had to reconstruct because it was drawn for a 32-page magazine, so that would have been the centerfold, but it was never printed as a centerfold, so I had to do a lot of splicing and dicing to make it all match. And
oh, geez.
And even
I'm sure that wasn't intentional at all.
Cut off in the center, so I had to, I'd paste the same lettering from another word over it so it'd be consistent and everything. I think it was Charlotte Jetter lettered that. I don't know. A lot of it's typewriter.
And that's the variant cover.
Just
Very
so
nice.
good.
So cool.
These
T-shirts.
are all really cool.
Thank you.
And Mort, having read the first issue of Mr. A, I'm blown away by it. I was a fan. Now, we started talking about this a couple minutes ago, but why do you think so many artists gravitate to Mr. A?
Do they?
Yeah.
You say that.
Yeah.
I thought he was one
seriously,
of the most hated heroes in comics.
When you go to a convention, if you find anybody like, say, over 40
They'd have to be.
that is a cool artist, they've all got a sketch of Mr. A in their portfolio.
Oh wow, that's cool. So maybe it's time for the resurgence that America wasn't ready for at the turn of the century when we were.
I think that seriously, getting variant covers from some top tier guys would be among the easiest efforts.
100%.
Oh,
Well,
gosh, of
well,
course.
believe me, I've talked to a few top tier artists, but we're just starting out and we can't afford those guys.
No, that'll come. That'll
for
come.
sure. I have no doubt.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, obviously a lot of people, would love to do a variant, because I was talking to one artist whose name you'd recognize immediately. And I was like, would you want to do like Mr. A, Gorgo, or Static? And he's like, I want to do all of them.
Oh, we just got a super chat here. Let's check that out. So this comes from Thor Odinson. Thanks for the super chat. I read Tales of Suspense number 48 today and was struck by how creative Ditko had to be to take on Iron Man as he was and create that iconic look.
Right?
Yep.
And did he get a dinner for it? I don't think he ever got a dinner.
No.
But yeah, I mean, he streamlined Iron Man to basically what people know who he is today.
Not only streamlined, but didn't he do the red and gold?
Oh yeah.
Yep. And also came up with like Kirby Iron Man, he'd be putting on his snow boots and stuff, where Ditko came up with the idea, like with the Creeper and other stuff, where you click a button and stuff shows up and slides over, as seen by Robert Downey Jr. in portraying that action in many films.
Yeah. Another thing that we're releasing with this campaign, which you kind of scroll by, was the Ditcoin. So Mort had this idea. There's Bitcoin, but we're creating Ditcoin, and what it is, it's physical coins, and it's going to be money that you could exchange for future special edition merchandise and stuff once we have it out. So we're going to have eventually 3 different denominations of Ditcoin, and obviously it's a collectible, but eventually it will be exchangeable as money for special edition Ditkoverse merch.
See, I keep telling Mark that that's a good scam, because no one's going to give up their Ditcoin.
That's my pitch.
I mean, you might get you get $10-15 off buying something, but in 100 years that will be worth millions.
Now, what I like about this is I backed this campaign pretty early.
Thank you.
But I got to go back in and make sure I get one of these.
Yeah, I backed it too, but I think I got the 4-book set, but I think I got to get it too.
Okay, so let me say this. I'll just so that everybody's kind of hearing this, is we got to get it posted up there. Is we found an error in a couple things. One, there was one package that was overpriced, and another one where since they don't have a shopping cart, that you have to add different things individually. The shipping is always excessive, always almost. So what we're doing is we're cataloging everything, and any of the difference in what it actually costs to ship, we're going to give Ditcoin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is the law yet, but if you already ordered Bitcoin, maybe we give you a Conga coin.
Mort keeps talking about that, but I keep rejecting it. So
yeah. Okay, then you get
just set the record straight here.
Great. Yes,
because we have three Ditcoins coming out. Mr. A Conga with the gorilla, and then Static. All different denominations, different metals. You know,
Yeah,
so
well,
right now
one's
we're releasing
copper, one's black nickel.
What was the year that? When did Conga debut, and when did Mr. A debut? Too.
Well, Conga, you know, was a movie. It was a British film. I think that was like 61, 62.
Okay.
And Charlton had the rights. And they also put out steamy novelization.
Ooh.
Yeah, they had like
Conga?
Charlton basically had like a kind of porn, not kind of porn. Later on, they did have full porn paperbacks, but like even they had Conga and Gorgo.
More
And
control yourself. Don't go down that road. Control yourself.
No, I don't mean them together.
Yeah, no, the question was fun. But then
but they
Mr. A
would
Mr.
put in steamy stuff. And so Steve did that for like 5-6 years till he went back to, where did he go back to? He did something. Maybe when he went to DC or something. I don't know. But so yeah, it's pretty cool. And who doesn't like giant gorillas?
So Mr. A, he copyrighted Mr. A in 1967. And its first appearance was in Wally Wood's Wits End #3. So that's when Mr. A came out in 1968.
Oh, wow.
68. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been going through a lot of the art, and there's a lot that's like copyright 69 and didn't come out till like 72.
Yeah.
So he was cranking.
Yeah.
So another thing you guys have is you have trading cards.
Yep. 52.
Those are fantastic.
Yeah. Each one has a different graphic of Mr. A on it, and then a quote from Mr. A on the back.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, Mark did an incredible job on those cards.
And shout out to J-Tunes, Joshua, who chimed in, who helped me put those together. So he was a very strong influence and very influential in getting those cards made.
I like how they look like a pack of cigs. And they,
That's what I thought it was.
And
at
they
first.
even
I'm like,
have a gold foil on the very top. See, if you don't see the seal, then it ain't real.
Yeah.
And I got the little white box there. It says, may be addictive and change your mind about a lot of things. You know?
Yeah, but it's a deck of cards. Basically, not playing cards, Mr. A cards. Yeah.
Nice. You got so you've got some original Mr. A #1.
Yeah, I collect. Anytime I see Mr. A or Avenging World, the originals, I buy them. I have a pretty good collection, so I'm going to give some away, sell some. Just some, if anybody wants some of the original stuff.
That's great. There and Billy's like, I'm just scrolling through because I want people to kind of get an idea of like how great these prices actually are.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time Mark heard that. Because I'm going like, hey, let's do this for 25. And he's like, nah, 15's fine.
I'm trying to be real. I just.
I don't know. I think you could, it's all limited. It's not, you're not printing 100,000 of them.
Speaking
it'd be nice if you did.
Speaking as the Overstreet guy here, these prices are a steal.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I don't think I saw any under 100 when, just a casual search.
Yeah. And we got some Mort Todd original art.
Yeah. And guys, they have 19 days left on this campaign on Indiegogo. And Mort, Nile and JC and I were talking to Mark about for you guys to go to the other platforms. So Kickstarter for sure, I think would be massive. And then there's Fund My Comic.
It's funny because I've done probably about a dozen Kickstarters. Yeah. And then I'd always look over the fence at Indiegogo and like, how are they making $100,000 a book with a character no one's heard of or nothing? Yeah. So this is the first time I've ever tried it. And, there are a lot of bugs. But we heard really great things about, like Jeff's Capone through GoFundMe and stuff like that. So I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, and really, just so that everybody knows, is this anything that we get out of this campaign? Obviously, it's paying for the material, but everything that we make on any of these campaigns is going into more material. End of story.
Yeah.
Except Mark does have a vault full of Bitcoins
that
he jumps into and swims through every now and then.
Yeah.
He's like Scrooge McDuck diving through them,
No, any funding of this is going into the next project. Next project is what the goal is. I want this.
We're really ahead of ourselves. I've got all the Mr. A issues colored. I got a couple congas. Got to do some more statics, and then, we did Mark mention the Ditko 100?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Talked about that.
Because we're figuring, we'll have several dozen books out by then, and plus for a lot of other wicked stuff.
Okay.
I ain't lying.
Yeah, this I definitely, like Billy said, after the 19 days are up, I would definitely transfer this over to Kickstarter, because then I think this would have potential to be anywhere between like 50 to 100. I wouldn't be surprised.
Let me ask your opinion. You don't think people who pledge for Indiegogo would be insulted if we did another campaign right after?
Yeah, they're very cool.
Not at all. Nope. Because there's people that only back Indiegogo campaigns because they support that platform for their personal reasons, and then you've got people that will buy anywhere. And then you got people that only know Kickstarter and don't even know Indiegogo exists.
Right.
Yeah.
Kickstarter is an explorable platform. I mean,
Right.
that's where millions of people go.
Right. And there've been a couple times it's been like a Kickstarter pick. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this.
I mean, Steve Ditko is
going
going to be a Kickstarter pick, and that's where too, like you might get comicbook.com and things like that being like, oh, Ditko work is now at Kickstarter because of a press release or something that comes up through there. It's just they have the ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you kind of match these IPs with the legendary name of Steve Ditko on a platform like Kickstarter, I mean, that's why Todd McFarlane and all those guys use it, because you pair their name with that ecosystem and they're banging out, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars.
Right.
I don't know, again, it's definitely, once this is done here, you can leave it in demand as a store here, and then I would bring it right over to Kickstarter, maybe a week or two after.
Who's got the store? Indie?
Indiegogo, you can keep it in demand, so people can still purchase stuff.
Yes.
And actually, Kickstarter does it too.
I'm surprised. I figured I would hit in the quarter.
Hey, you know what? I want to read a couple other quotes that
Sure.
from my uncle, from Steve Ditko Speaks. And this is a little blurb that he said about. So this is what he talked about when he was talking about color. He said, yes, I like the coloring aspect since color is an important psychological part of doing comics. I always did a color scheme for heroes, villains, costumes like Electro, etc. And yes, the creeper colors were mine. With shade, I did color overlays on tracing paper. What's that? Mort.
I think he's having it's just breaking up, so it's not catching up.
Hey, Mort, mute yourself, dude.
Connection, which is ridiculous.
Okay, so just clam it for a second. So then he said, with shade, I did color overlays on tracing paper for the panels in pages, but the problem was the coloring department was unwilling to follow my color schemes. In one book, I got the reverse of what I was
anybody.
So he did his own color things. In fact, so there's on my Mort, holy man.
More, you got a bad connection there.
Yeah. So Mort, don't say anything. It's coming across like the mechanical man. Hey, so if you could see over here, this picture right here, it's that Superman that he did in the 400 issue 400.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did is he did a color overlay of that. He did a couple color samples. That one is an original that he did, and he had given it to my brother, and my brother kind of fell on hard times, and he gave it to Heritage to auction off. They returned it, and they said they can't verify that this was Steve Ditko's. He never did color. He never did color pencils. He always did color pencils as just a color, trying to just play with colors. So I ended up said, look, Steve, I'll buy it off you. So I bought it off my brother. And then I was, I don't know, messaging with my sister, and my sister says, "What do you mean you have that? I have one. He sent me one." And come to find out that I have one, my sister has one, and it's neither of the ones that was published. So there were some variants, but he had colored them in color pencil.
Well, yeah,
so
it was a color guy. Because whenever he did covers for me, he would give me colored pencils, you know, for the monster mags and chunk. And also, I colored that once from black and white and sent it to Steve. And he sent back like a 5-page letter about the virtue of Superman. And how everybody does it wrong.
Hey,
I was just thinking the other day too about one time he did Batman, and it was so cool. And I wish he could have done Batman and Superman. You know?
Oh, and Man-Bat, when he did it in Man-Bat.
Yeah.
So one last thing that I wanted to read was about names, which people may or may not know. He said some names can have meanings like, so Mr. A is Rex Grain. That's his name, He said, what it is, it means against the grain of the usual moral thinking. So that's where Rex Grain comes from. It means against the grain of usual moral thinking. And then the question is Vic Sage, which means victory through wisdom.
So I'm sure you guys noticed, like normally Ditko's names that he comes up with are usually no more than 4 letters.
Yeah.
And I think it's a space saver.
It is.
I think, Mark says, there are reasons for these names, but also it's so you don't have to write Mixobiddleick in a balloon all the time.
So listen, the campaign is just super intriguing, and I urge anybody that's out there that is not experienced these books or has experienced them in less than spectacular fashion to join in this time and see them done in these remastered formats.
Thank you.
I do not think anybody will be disappointed.
Yeah, and the link's been in the live chat for you guys to check out. The link's in the description below. It's also going to be on the channel, so you'll be able to check it there. So there's 19 days left on this campaign on Indiegogo, and if it heads to any other platforms, we'll make sure that the Pop XP and Billy and us, we all share it on our socials as well, so you guys can check it out. One thing I want to touch base on before we head out is what you have going on behind you, Mark. I know before we went live, you were kind of telling us, that this is your Ditko room.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah.
That's I got the 60s Spidey show on.
Yeah, and there's his door sign right there.
Yep, there's a door sign. Let's go solo on Mort or on Mark.
I'm Mark right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's his jacket there. That's the jacket that was in his room. That's a checkered jacket. But then again, all this is his library. All the stuff that was from his library.
Yeah, what books does he have? Like, what's his reference, or like what books does Steve Ditko have?
So do you know Zach Kruse, who wrote Steve Ditko, Mysterious Traveler?
No.
That book. I'll tell you what, it is by far, hands down, the best book who describes his career philosophically, and ties it all together. So Zach has been coming out, and I'll kind of give you a nugget here that has never been said before. This is new stuff. But anyway, he's been coming out and cataloging all of his stuff, all of his books, because in his books, he also has annotations and things. So Zach has been coming out, and we're going to eventually come out with a whole catalog of what is in his library and all of his other artifacts. He's been going to Johnstown, cataloging things from there. But at the end of this year, Zach will be releasing a Steve Ditko documentary.
Oh, wow.
That will blow people's minds.
Yeah, it looks good.
Well, we have to have him on as well, because we'd love to have you guys back on again. I mean, this is a true pleasure, especially when the Kickstarter launches, or maybe when the Indiegogo is about to close or whatever. But we got to do this because I could just talk to you guys forever. I mean, I think this is so much fun. I mean,
Billy, I could talk too. I could go on and on.
Yeah. And what do you got back here?
Oh.
Mort's really Spider-Man. It's not Peter Parker.
That's right.
The evidence is behind you.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah,
I
it's
gave
like
you the
my
big
my
hat.
Spidey Fortress of Solitude, where I have a bunch of statues of his friends and foes.
What
Hey,
is
but
that
getting back
helmet?
to books, like Steve would give me a lot of books and newsletters and stuff.
Mhm.
And one that really killed me was like this big ass book called The Apocalyptics. And it was about like, this would have been like mid 80s, and it was about the climate change scam. And it was pretty damn good. And I wondered why, don't steal this, any of you guys. I want to do a group of supervillains called the Apocalyptics.
Yeah.
I was in a band called the Apocalyptics.
Oh, really?
No,
Who'd you open for? No, but he would also
The
give me,
Nihilistics.
he would give me a lot of newsletters from Hillsdale College, and likewise he would underline and mark them up and stuff.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh,
Hey, listen, we've been on a good long time,
Yeah.
except for Mort.
speak for yourself.
We're gonna have Mort back on.
But
Yeah,
before,
definitely more. We gotta
before
have
we
you
get
back
out
on.
of here, Billy, we should take a look at She Gatecrasher and a quick look at Mr. Capone, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do. Do you have Mr. Capone racked up?
Yes, I do. Let's get it
You,
over. and
you
that's
didn't
on
brag
Fun
about
Mike
me coloring some of your Capone stuff, did you?
I did not yet.
For shame. For shame.
Mort bailed out one of the pages that I just could not get the colorists to understand. And he's also done most of my trading cards,
Fun
as
times
well as
had by
some
all.
covers.
Terrific.
All right. So what do we got here, Mr. JC?
We have the Fun My Comic. This is a catch-up campaign. This is just books, and like literally, if you look at those 9 stalwart souls that have backed it so far, they all have they almost all have their books already.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you
So
got
you're just
some
getting
big
them
numbers
shipped out
though,
right away.
for just 9 backers.
That is for 9 backers.
Yeah, honest to goodness, this is the highest the level of engagement for the people there. There's 2 people that have got individual issues. There's Billy's cover on Vampire PA, Bite Out of Crime, which is the first appearance of Al Capone Vampire.
Yes.
Does it have a crossover with McGruff?
It does not.
Well, you had your Captain Action crossover. I didn't think it was impossible.
I absolutely, and you know, just the easy thing is I know the guys that own Captain Action. I don't know the guys that own McGruff, the crime dog.
So is that Fun My Comic there?
That is Fun My Comic. It's my first time doing that. For whatever reason, the Kickstarter did great for Capone Captain Action, and the Indiegogo cratered. It was pathetic.
I guess we've all learned our lesson.
And so my basic approach is, why would we ignore any revenue stream? So I wanted to try these guys out, and it's been very responsive. I got some nice graphics by Don Guzzo, and I really I'm so far.
I love those homage covers you've been doing.
Thank you very much. That's been a lot of fun. Of course, you colored the great EC one, the Tales from the Crypt 36 one.
Oh,
that
that
came out freaking awesome.
Thanks.
The variant, the homage variants, we had a couple orders of those real quick where people bought all of them.
Wow.
That deluxe, Nile, are you the one scrolling? That deluxe one right there?
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm scrolling.
We've only got 2 of those packages left. That's been the most popular thing in the campaign so far. Billy's cover on the signed limited edition of the trade paperback for VPA, and on the Vampire PA Bite Out of Crime. And this is the cover. Mort actually colored the cover. This one package here, there's only one of them, and that's if you want that original art. So that's it, and basically the first 30 people all get all of the exclusive trading cards we've done so far, which is 11.
Wow.
And if we hit a stretch goal, which seems a little unlikely on a campaign like this, somebody would have to get that $500 one. But we actually have another trading card ready to go.
Very nice. It's a great collection.
Jeff, get $1,000, please, everybody. Please,
Yeah.
please,
Let's
for goodness sakes.
And listen, it's if you haven't tried it, this is a great time to do it, to catch up, because you can still get the entire story.
awesome. And that's on Fund My Comic.
It is on Fund
And-
My Comic. And one thing I want to say is it's got both. You do not have to get them. They're available separately. It's got both of my glow in the dark covers.
Neat.
And the one that is the homage to Punch Comics 12, which is Capone #1. Honest to goodness, you guys, people who've watched this channel know I'm not a big bragger. It is seriously the best glow in the dark cover I've ever seen. It's better than Ghost Rider 15. It is
Better than mine.
it is
It is.
honest to
It
goodness.
works.
It
was built.
what was really great, my late friend Gabriel Sorrow, who was a printer, sent me an advance copy at San Diego. I left it sitting in the window deliberately, went to the convention, came back, picked it up, and caught the San Diego sun all afternoon, walked into the bathroom, closed the door, turned out the light, and just giggled.
Yeah.
It was so freaking good.
That wasn't the
good.
first time, though.
It is so, I mean, honestly, Billy, from experience, it's expensive doing the glow in the dark covers.
Yeah.
They rarely justify themselves, but it's really cool. So still got a handful
We're
of
talking
them left.
about doing a Black Velvet Mr. A cover. No, I'm kidding.
I didn't hear that one.
That would be awesome. Oh, let's take a look here.
Yeah, guys, She Gatecrasher. We surpassed 1,000 backers on Indiegogo. Thank
Right
you all
on.
very,
There we go.
very much. We're now with our Kickstarter and our Indiegogo. We're approaching, I think, 1,400 backers.
Great.
2,400 backers. We have 1,000 and
Better.
And we're having a lot of fun with this book, so much so that Jeff is, of course, the great scribe right here. Two chaps below me, JC Vaughn. We're having a lot of fun with it. I'm actually doing the Archie scene right now.
Archie
So,
S.
we're
Get back
there-
up. What do you got there? Let's-
Archie
just
S.
a little quick
Archie
flash.
S. It's just
Yeah.
they're on the beach.
Ooh.
Oh, I thought they were Jungle Girls.
We did that already.
We did Jungle Girls already, Mort.
And we did a Ditko dinosaur. I can share that. I'll grab that dinosaur page and share it. But just having so much fun. It has some of the world's greatest public domain comic book heroes and also cartoons, where she gets trapped in comic book history and has to battle her way through the various trends, genres, and decades to find her way home.
Excellent.
And we're having a lot of fun. My buddy Rob Liefeld, of course, gifted me this wonderful variant cover, the first time he ever drew She. Of course, we have Lady Death is in it and playing an integral part to it. Look at that. You got Popeye, you got Oswald the Rabbit, and Steamboat Willie, and his female passenger. They're in it as well. Just having a lot of fun.
Yeah, it shows.
The great Stan Sakai did a variant cover for us featuring Usagi Yojimbo and She. And
Cool.
this is propelling us to do our next crowdfunded campaign coming out in May will be Ran, Revenge of the Warrior. So, Mort, I did the samurai character. If you scroll back down, Nile, keep going right there. So that's my character, She. Mort and Mark on the right.
The one on the right.
Yeah. When I first developed her around 1990, when I was in college, it was the character on the left. Very 90s, very early 90s, late 80s, very sexy, one-dimensional. And over the course of the next 3-4 years, it developed into the character on the right, She. So Anna meets up with Ran, the very first. First inception of She, a character that's never existed in this great comic book world. And Jeff and I are having so much fun with her is that this is the next She story will be, as opposed to the first She was She Way of the Warrior. Ran will be Ran, Revenge of the Warrior, sort of a little play on Star
Sounds
Wars.
like a lot of shenanigans.
Yes, sir. Yes, I like it. Hang on, wait.
Where's the bell?
Oh.
All right.
So that's the Indiegogo campaign, guys. Every one of you who backed this campaign, thank you so much. Once again, you've changed our lives.
All right, Billy, hang on a second. Stop, Niall. Stop on the Art T Bear cover there. Mort, Billy and I have been talking about this cover. Does this not look like the box art for an Aurora model kit?
Right? It sure does. Yeah. I don't know if it's a monster or a superhero Aurora.
You can make a great statue. A great statue.
It'll be a great one.
But we're having a lot of fun. Mark, I know you're going to San Diego. Mark, will you be going to San Diego Comic-Con or any conventions?
Yep. Right now, it's just San Diego and the Ditko Con and
Johnstown in September.
Oh, and I just found out my hometown has a convention this weekend, and they didn't invite me.
Oh,
what bastards!
Good Lord,
I'm gonna crash it.
When is the Ditko? When is the Ditko Con in Johnstown, Mark?
So we have I have three things going on. I'm going to Michigan City in Memorial Day weekend. They're having a museum there. Warner Graph is opening up a comic museum, so I'm going to be there. Probably my sister too. And then San Diego Comic Con, of course. And then the Ditko Con is September 27th in Johnstown. It's Saturday, September 27th. It's just nothing but Ditko. And we have Jack C. Harris is going to be there. Will Murray, Koi Fam.
Koi's great.
Who else is going to be there?
Will Michael T. Gilbert be there?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and Mort obviously will be there. The family will be there. Jim Rudd. There's a bunch of people that are going to be there. It's just so if you're in the neighborhood, and 27th of September in Johnstown.
Mark, Jeff, maybe it's time to visit the campus.
Could you send me email me info on that?
Yep.
This does bring up my last plug, and we would be happy to cover that in Scoop.
Yeah.
Our weekly email newsletter. Niall, could you pull up overstreetaccess.com?
And that's where, so in the Bottle Works is where this is. We also have a dedicated Ditko museum area, Steve Ditko Museum, where we're going to have an expanded museum area that will have some additional things of his artifacts and comics and pictures and stuff like that. So it'll be a Ditko Comic Con and also sort of an expanded museum show.
That's phenomenal. Niall,
I got to tell you, though, they should change the name from Johnstown to Ditkoville because they got all these giant murals around.
Oh, yeah. A couple giant murals getting plastered around. Yep.
They ought to have a statue.
Well, once your Ditcoins make billions, you can buy that now.
That's right. Yeah.
Buy the naming rights for the town.
Yeah.
No, there's been chatter about putting a museum there. I mean, we're there. We'll see what ends up happening, but we are really investing a lot of energy into Johnstown because that was his hometown, born and raised,
So just Niall, if you would scroll down just a little on Scoop there. Okay, look there to the right.
Something looks familiar.
So saying that we'll be glad to cover the convention is something we will absolutely do. And this, by the way, this is our soft launch. We've done Scoop for more than 20 years, and Overstreet Access is the online version of the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide. And now this is now our front page. That's great.
Very
Cool.
nice.
Well, yeah, I knew you'd been around forever, but I didn't know it was like a secret thing.
There's a secret club.
Yeah. Well, and I will definitely share with on our Indiegogo update. I will share the campaign as well, and see if we can bring some of our backers over towards you guys. And again, we've got to have you guys back on when you launch with Kickstarter, and we've got to exchange numbers in the email because let's get a drink or something in San Diego at the very least.
At the very least.
Yeah. Hey, and if anybody wants to reach out to me, anybody in the audience, Mark at ditkoverse.com. You could, I'm personal. I'm there for you. Just you have questions didn't get answered. That's what I do. I'm there. So Mark at ditkoverse.com.
All right.
Yeah, email me directly.
Real quick. Sorry. Okay. Agent Cub, if I may, do any of you collect comics? So this is bringing us to a very special segment of the show. and I'm going to play it, Nile. I'm doing it. Because guess what time it is, Nile?
What time is it?
Comic hunts.
It's time for comic hunts. So the comic hunters out there, anything, Mark? I see you're always on the look for your uncle's work. Anything in particular you're thinking about hunting for?
Nope. I mean, I love Avenging Worlds. I love Mr. A stuff, but you know what? Yeah, I can't tell you how many copies of, from Speedball to the Creeper to Hawk and Dove to the creepy, eerie stuff. I mean, I've been collecting some of his older stuff now, his 50s stuff. So if it's just Ditko on it, I'm interested. Always in.
JC, anything you're particular?
Oh yeah, Nile, can we go big on me for just a minute?
You got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I bought that too.
Hush.
Oh,
This is the 11x17 version of Hush.
wow.
Oh, I just thought Jeff got a lot smaller.
To give you some perspective, this is it up against a regular Treasury edition.
Good Lord.
So
Wow.
I'm totally geeked out about that. Can't wait for the next issue.
That's all good
And
to read on the
Must be
toilet.
painful.
I have to say that I really now hope that we're going to be seeing She in that format.
Yeah, if I could get go big on me, Nile. I know.
Astonishing.
This is the first comic I ever bought.
What is that? Like an Ernie Chua cover?
I don't know. It's a bidet.
Danny
Buddy
Bullen.
and Chan. Buddy Ansky and Chan.
What
It's
did I
taken off
say?
of the Band
Nice.
on the Run album cover because then look on the back is all.
Wow. That's cool.
And
That's
I was
cool.
a huge Werewolf by Night fan. I love the war comics and the horror comics.
That is a Band on the Run cover.
Yeah, it's definitely Band on the Run. And I was a big Beatles fan, and this, of course, the great line here when he says when he's talking to the Orb, the motorcyclist, and he's saying here, yeah, there he is sliding 75 yards, and I slid 75 yards.
Is that the
On
Don
my
Merlin?
face.
Oh,
But yeah, so for
Ow.
San Diego Comic-Con, guys, we are going to be publishing a very special edition, limited, oversized She Gatecrasher San Diego Comic-Con edition, part 1. We're going to do. So we're going to have that for San Diego Comic-Con. I'm really excited.
Oh,
I
that's
picked
cool.
this up this past weekend, and I was looking for Narwhal's book and Narwhal and Mark
What was
Miller.
it? Bad? What is it?
The Vatican, yeah,
Vatican, yeah.
And they didn't.
Hard to
sold
find.
out.
It's hard to find.
Yeah, sold out. So that was my comic hunt. So how about
Hey,
you,
let
Mort?
me-
Mort, you got any? Are you?
yeah. Just waiting for you to ask. Let me show you my current favorite comic book,
All right.
which is
Oh, look at that metal edition. Look at that.
yeah.
That
Nah,
was
seriously,
funny.
like, I read comics since I was a little kid, so there's nothing I really get.
Right.
I mean, when I was like in junior high, I could buy like all the Atlas Pre-Code and, St. John, all these horror comics for like 50 cents
Yeah.
in Maine, at flea markets and stuff. So it was basically, I don't have a need for nothing. Plus the fact that like it's hoarding, and like I realized years ago, it's like, I'm never going to read all these comics again. And I was like, oh, I might need something for reference. But now with the internet, you can find anything you want. So
Sure. Yep.
Nile, what about you, man?
Yeah.
Well, I just got this in on Tuesday, which I backed. This is from Corey Lewis. It's called Console Wars. So I thought it was cool. I like the black and white art that he does in there, So I backed this on, I think, Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Yeah, this was a Kickstarter. So this came in Tuesday. So that's my newest book that I got.
what's the concept?
Basically, it's like retro gaming,
Okay.
like the old Nintendo and stuff. So it's a console wars. So we kind of made like characters that represent like each of the old school consoles, from the Master System, the NES, the Genesis, stuff like that. but the interior art is what I loved about it.
Okay, so now I get what you guys are doing, but this is something that I just recently read, and I talked to Tom, who wrote this. You know,
Rorschach, yeah,
and this is freaking awesome. You know, so Tom King was in. He was down in San Diego, I guess, and I stopped in and I said, "Hey, Tom, I read Rorschach. I love it." And he's like, "Whoa, a Ditko who actually loved that?" So yeah, this is freaking awesome. I have multiple copies of this because I love it so much I give it away.
There you go.
Yeah,
I get that.
Very
Niall, I also got a crowdfunded book, Hank Howard Pizza Detective from Bad Idea.
Oh yeah,
which is Robert Venditti and David Lapham.
Yep.
And what I like about it is it's a hard-boiled detective who gets everything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely absurd, but played straight.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We are the Comic Hunters, and this is again a very special edition of
Comic Hunts.
Excellent.
You know, you say Comic Hunts too fast.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Well,
No, we didn't.
You know,
Mort,
you never noticed.
You've got a dirty mind, Mort.
Yes.
God, you do. I've heard about
dirty
you.
mind,
Can't put anything by me.
that's more. I gotta deal with this every day.
He's a little scamp, aren't you? You're a rascal, Mort. That's what you are.
He's a hoot.
Yeah, I've had a few years practice.
There you go.
Well, thank you guys for joining us, guys. Everyone, please. The link is in the description for the new Indiegogo campaign. It's live now. We have 19 days left. It's Steve Ditko's Amazing Heroes and Monsters. It's all done. The book is all done.
Yeah.
They have it shipping in July of 2025. It really upsets me.
Personally, from the Ditko household in Los Angeles.
That's so great.
Yeah, every book and merch shipped will be touched by Ditko fingers.
By multiple Ditko's.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So
Guys, I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I really
this
look
was a
forward
good
to doing
show.
it again.
Appreciate
So did I.
everyone's
What
time.
little of it I was here.
Yeah, we'll have you back on
We're
for
gonna have
sure,
you
Mort.
back on for
So
sure,
we
Mort.
have a lot of fun on this channel. So we
Apparently.
even like review books or talk about various genres, and we love bringing in various people with different takes on. Let's talk monster comics. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah.
We love having you guys on to talk about it. We get a nice little
I
round
approve.
table.
Yep.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Guys,
so
back
much.
this-
Really
back this
appreciate
campaign.
your
It's all
support.
done. For those of you that are Kickstarter, exclusive backers or Fund My Comics, I'm sure that it's going to be on those platforms soon. And what it is, these two gents will be joining us as well.
Stay tuned.
Super.
There you go. Have a
Thanks,
good night,
guys.
everyone.
Right.
We'll see
Take
you
care of
next
yourself,
week.
guys. Thanks again.
Thanks, Sal. Thanks, Jeff. I'll call you tomorrow.
All right.
Later, guys.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Hey everyone!
Thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button, and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP, and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you soon.